Contrary to all the rumors, ATVing isn't dead in Maine, but the rules have changed. This requires ATVers to adapt their use patterns and become more involved, taking an active role in development and maintenance. With increased trail funding becoming available and ATV club development and membership on the rise, we believe the future of the sport is bright. Many landowners have experienced damage to their property from unauthorized ATV use, resulting in negative impact to the environment.
Well, ATVs like to ride everywhere, and what happens when they do that is they have the consequences that go with that. They drive through streams, they mud up crossings, they create siltation, they do damage in places where the habitat is sensitive. So therefore, we don't want that to occur. We want them to be on designated trails so that those impacts are lessened. We maintain an extensive road system, and ATVs can add to that cost. And all we're trying to do is assure that that doesn't increase the amount of maintenance costs that we have to incur.
I really enjoy my four-wheeler. My father enjoys his and my brother enjoys his. We use them virtually every day here on the farm. Several years ago we found though that other people was infringing on our property. We found that they were riding when it was too wet, cutting ruts in our field, and by ruts I mean tracks being cut down into the wet soil, and later when it dries and we're harvesting the crop, we take quite a jostling going across those tracks because a lot of times they don't go the same way that we go, and very frustrating.
All ATV damage results in some economic loss to the landowner, but some farmers have experienced even greater loss when their crops in their tree plantations were destroyed by rogue ATVers who drove through their fields, causing thousands of dollars of damage.
On what I would call a more criminal note is when, not in a hayfield, but more in a cornfield, and they get in and the joy of driving through the corn and knocking it down.
What landowners want most is for people to show them some respect, treat the land like the landowner would treat it themselves, ask permission, and following the rules will result in a lot less headaches from everybody involved. The governor convened an ATV task force to review the issues and make recommendations to address the growing problem. ATV dealers, clubs, environmental groups, landowners, and law enforcement agents were all at the table. After receiving hundreds of comments from the public, the task force put together a list of recommendations that included several changes to the law.
The biggest complaint we heard from the landowners was that people were riding wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted, without even bothering to get permission. Furthermore, when landowners called for law enforcement help, they had a real hard time getting any response. And so it became real obvious that in order to prevent everything being closed, we had to deal with some major issues. The primary one was we had to reaffirm the landowner's rights. Secondly, we had to put the responsibility on the user for them to gain landowner permission. And third, we had to come up with a law enforcement response so that when landowners called, somebody would in fact be able to respond and deal with their issue. The major laws that came out of this, there was a bunch, about 46 different recommendations. But the biggest one that made the biggest impact was the landowner permission. The law now requires an ATV operator to have landowner permission. Permission is presumed if they're on a marked signed ATV trail, or if they're on land where the landowner has an own open land policy. Otherwise, they've got to have landowner permission. Another real major impact in the law was the mud season. There's now a mud season that allows ATV clubs to close their trails during the wet, saturated soils time. This has done wonders towards landowner relations because the rutting and stuff isn't happening, and there's enforcement happening so people are staying off. And it's helped clubs because they don't spend a lot of money fixing trails, which allows them to do a better job of maintaining trails.
In most cases, ATV clubs have benefited from these laws because they were already asking permission and they were following the landowner's wishes. The landowner permission requirement has made many people realize they need to get involved. So they've joined a club or started a club, resulting in ATV membership more than doubling in the last year. The mud season closure gives us a tool to protect our trails, thereby saving money we would have spent on fixing damage so it can be used to expand the trail system. In many cases, this has resulted in landowners and clubs working together to create a steadily increasing trail system. Now that there is increased funding for ATV trails, the construction and maintenance can be completed quicker and with a higher quality level, which should result in a better quality and safer trail system, which is good for both landowners and users. We're working towards a task force goal of a 7,000-mile trail system, which should further increase the economic impact, which is already generating over $200 million to the Maine economy every year. With the landowner insurance, trail grants, signs, and other support we're receiving from the Bureau of Parks and Lands ATV program, combined with all the work that the clubs are doing, we should be able to accomplish our goal of a statewide ATV trail system within a few years.
Another big change was the ATV registration fee increase. Residents saw their fee almost triple, and non-resident fee was established at a level that was 5 times more than what they had previously paid. This large fee increase was a sore spot with many people initially, because very little of the money was used to directly benefit ATV programs. This year, the registration fee is actually being used to promote the sport by supporting club trails, local and statewide law enforcement, and land acquisition. Currently, 50% of the money is going to develop ATV clubs and trails, with the remainder going to promote responsible use through safety training and law enforcement.
The future of ATV in the state of Maine is going to depend on clubs. These clubs can work with the landowners so that the landowner doesn't have to see 400 or 500 people riding across his property and speak to each one of them. With a club, he can approach one person.
All our trail work is reimbursed through grants, through the ATV program in the state. The more we get out there, the more work we get done, the more grant money we can use up and put to good use so we all have a good place to ride.
It could bring a lot of money into the state. The snowmobile clubs bring in about $300 million a year. Last year, the ATVs brought in $220 million. With a statewide system, we could triple this for the economy of the state of Maine.
Safety training is important for everyone, from young people to adults. In the state of Maine, ATV safety is mandatory for young people. Safety training courses for ATV operators are available from the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, from the ATV Safety Institute, and other entities that we recognize that can offer the ATV safety course. In an ATV safety course, the instructors will cover safe operation, the mechanics of the machine. They'll cover laws, environmental issues, ethics, landowner responsibility, and survival and outdoor skills. Enrollments are actually up quite a bit in the last few years. We last year had pretty near 1,700 students in programs, and that's over tenfold from 10 years ago. The bottom line is the person taking a safety course will come away a better and safe operator, will have knowledge of the laws, and have a lot more respect for the environment and the landowners.
Part of my job as a Maine game warden is to enforce the ATV laws in the state of Maine and to protect the public, which includes both landowners and user groups. The ATV laws have recently changed and some of the penalties have become quite substantial. One of the best ways you, as an ATV rider, can avoid steep fines is to increase your knowledge of the laws and increase your own opportunities by getting involved in a local ATV club. When trails are clearly marked with signs, it is much easier for you to obey the laws. Stay on marked trails. It is when you travel away from these clearly marked trails that you increase the risk of penalty and could potentially jeopardize delicate relationships forged with landowners. Club and trail development is a big part of the solution because they help us address landowner concerns. For example, in one town in the state of Maine, we were receiving hundreds of ATV complaints a year until an ATV club was established. Since then, a trail system has been developed with landowners' permission and cooperation, and the number of complaints has dropped sharply to only a handful a year. This enables us to more effectively deal with complaints and also encourages users to join ATV clubs and work hand in hand with landowners to control usage. This has been very successful in building relationships that have benefited everyone, including landowners. A clear example of community policing at its best.
Where do we go from here? We'll continue to support club development and landowners. In order for this to be accomplished, everyone must work together.
One of the benefits I see of a club is that they'll be keeping an eye on the trails, that they'll be, again, giving a person that we can contact, a face to talk to about our problems and concerns.
Without landowners, we have no trails, so we must develop and maintain a positive relation with them. We strive to keep our landowners happy. This starts with listening to their concerns and then addressing them. It is not enough to treat the land like it is your own. You must treat the land the way the landowner desires. Do not just assume you know what a landowner does or doesn't want. Always ask and be sure you are clear on their desires. Understanding their expectations and then meeting, or better yet, exceeding them, is a way to maintain pleased landowners. Take the time to thank them for the use of their land and offer a helping hand where you can. Remember that just as the negative image is spread, so too can the positive image. So we must take every opportunity to make a positive impact.
Our goal is to build 7,000 miles of environmentally stable and safe trails throughout Maine. This is a goal our clubs and our ATV program are working towards. With over 4,500 miles of trail open and growing, we're well over halfway there. We have more miles of authorized trail in Maine than the rest of New England combined. If you want to ride and enjoy your sport, you need to get involved. Remember the old saying, many hands make light work. With everyone doing their part, the future of ATVing in Maine is indeed bright. You can do your part by registering your machine, joining an ATV club, and helping where you can. So what are you waiting for? Come on, let's go for a ride. Remember to be safe and have fun.